Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Sukja, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about all the books that I read in the month of January 2026. That's right. So January was a fantastic reading month for me. I had a great start to 2026 reading goals because I read about 7 books in Jan, and I'm so happy with so many of the books that I read, and I'm so excited to share with you about these books so that maybe you'll find a few interesting ones among the 7 that I talk about. So without further ado, let's deep dive right into them. History of Love by Nicole Krauss, and this is the last book I read in Jan actually, but I think it was a very memorable read. Was it a little confusing? Yes, but at the same time, was it a unique story? Definitely. So this is about a man named Leo Gursky who is like past his prime. He's really old, living by himself, and the first sentence of this book itself is a kind of sentence that would want you to keep reading, right? So it's about how this man is wondering what he's going to leave behind when he passes away, and the kind of obituary they're going to write about him, and how he's accumulated a lot of junk in his apartment and he's kind of worried about that. He's actually living in New York, and that's where large part of the story is set, but he is the descendant of Polish immigrants and he's Jewish, right? So this book has a lot of Jewish connotations throughout, like a lot of references culturally in Judaism. A lot of this book is like a mystery that you have to piece together because it's not very straightforward, and it is a book that will keep you guessing where the story is going, why is the author providing the details that they are, and eventually it all comes together quite well. It does keep you on the edge of your seat in that you are trying to understand what's really happening, because you meet this character here and you're following his life, but at the same time there's another character called Alma, and there are multiple Almas, right? So that's where it gets a little tricky. Alma Singer is somebody who's also living in New York, but she's kind of curious about the lives of people in her past, like her ancestors. So she's researching about her mom, who's a translator, and is translating this book called The History of Love, which is written by an author about 60 years ago, I think, from the present day. Alma is trying to figure out who the author is and whether he's still alive, whether any of his descendants are alive. There's a lot of like searching that's going on, researching as well. This is about how a book can kind of change your life, and how a book can be so memorable that you name your child after the main character's name, right? Alma's mom apparently read this book called History of Love, and there was a character called Alma in it, and the mother liked it so much that she decided to name Alma after that character. So you're just constantly trying to figure out who is Alma and what does she have to do with the story. How are her path as well as the path of Leo Gursky, who's the old man we're following, how are they going to converge? If you're somebody is okay with a bit of a medium-paced, largely slow read, but you like to kind of piece things together, note down clues, and you like mysteries, then you'll probably really enjoy this book. So I think I would rate it about 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I'm sure this would really be very palatable for another kind of reader. Next, I read The Vanishing Act of Esme Lennox. So this is actually the 3rd favorite book of mine, of Maggie or Farrell's. I've read a few of her books now, and this particular book is super interesting. Largely at its heart, it deals with mental illness, and the main character, Esme, so she grew up in India largely, and then immigrated back to Edinburgh in the United Kingdom. And this is about how several years later, there's a family member, a descendant of this person, Esme Lennox, and she is just living her life really. This descendant name is Iris, and she's living in present day Edinburgh, and she's just living her life. But then Esme Lennox comes into her life all of a sudden, and she's in charge of her care. So we understand Esme as a child because the narrative takes us to what it was like for Esme to be a child. But we also see Esme as somebody who requires to be cared for and is older. And it's also about how back in the day, people used to just put women into institutions for the stupidest reasons, and they didn't legitimately have any mental illness, but they would just be like put in institutions. So this kind of deals with that social issue as well, and does a bit of commentary on that. It really is super interesting. I don't think there was a dull moment at all, and this kept me hooked from start to finish. So that's why this has turned out to be my 3rd favorite book by Maggie O'Farrell. Next, of course, I read Nightbitch by Yoder, and I have spoken in depth about this book in another video that I'll link up here. So if you're interested, please go check that out. But this book is again This was the first book that I started my year with, and it is all about female rage in that it's also about reclaiming your power, and it's about motherhood, and it's about a woman essentially who is slowly but surely transforming into a dog by nighttime, and how this kind of helps her cope with the challenges that come about when she's new to motherhood, and how she actually embraces this wild side and being this dog and living life as a dog from a certain point of view is actually really helpful for her in bonding with her child, and etc etc. So that is Nightbitch. I won't say more, but if this sounds interesting, it's a bit of magic realism, but largely realism. But a super interesting, unique book here for y'all to pick. Next, I read Magic Flutes by Eva Ibbotson, and this is perfect for people who are big fans of historical fiction, and if you love books that have to do with a certain art form. Like ages ago, I read a book by Eva Ibbotson. I think it was The Company of Swans, and I absolutely enjoyed it. It was about a ballet company and a woman who was working as a ballerina in that company and her life, etc. But this was such a light-hearted read. I got through it so quickly. It was like a palate cleanser. I really needed this at the start of the month, and it was so refreshing to deep dive back to an author whom I read when I was in high school, and she did not fail to deliver. The story is so absorbing. It just gets you hooked within the first, I think, 6-7 pages. You're like invested, and you meet some really memorable characters. They're like caricatures. They've got these traits that really make them very well-rounded. And this book is actually about a woman who is the descendant of queens, so she's a princess. So this woman is not really fond of being part of royalty, and she wants to kind of do her own thing, and she's passionate about opera. So she kind of joins a opera company, and she works there as a seamstress, but she becomes such an indispensable part of the company that they can't imagine doing things without her. And then you meet this person named Guy, who is like a really nice, tall, dark, brooding figure, and it's a love story that kind of comes about. But it's written so well, a very nice classic romance novel that does not fail to deliver punch, right? So it's about how she and him develop this relationship, and it's really endearing, and it's a bit about Austria as well, the scenic countryside. There's a bit about opera and, the love for opera. There are references to big operas by Mozart and things like that. In fact, Magic Flutes is the name of one of Mozart's operas as well. So I really enjoyed this. It was a breeze to get through, and it's one of my favorite books of like January for sure. Next I read Clytemnestra by Costanza Casati, and this is the author's, I think, debut novel, but she again did not fail to like impress and leave an impression. I definitely want to read more books by this author after reading this. This is about a Greek mythological figure named Clytemnestra, who is described as being a mother, murderer, and magnificent, and I think that's very apt. This is not a super detailed novel, nor is it really sparsely detailed. I think it comes in between Circe and the Song of Achilles, for that matter, by Madeline Miller. So if you enjoyed reading those books, there's a high chance you'll enjoy reading this like me. This book is at, I think, 400 pages. Does not fail to like keep you hooked from start to finish. So Clytemnestra is a princess, but she is somebody who's lived through a very hard life and a hard time. Again, I'm not going to talk too much in length about this because I've done a separate video, so please go take a look at that if you want to hear further thoughts. But this was definitely my favorite of January 2026, so definitely worth picking this up if you loved any book by Madeline Miller, or if you're a fan of Greek mythological retellings. This is a character I think she just takes from obscurity and breathes new life into, and you just like suddenly have this newfound in a respect for this character, and you want to know more about her life. This book has some really cool characters coming in as well, because there's the whole Troy thing that's happening simultaneously, and you meet people like Odysseus, Penelope, and it's all interconnected, Greek mythology. So it's very interesting if you're a connoisseur of that. But yeah, enough said. I read Roman Stories by Jhumpa Lahiri, which has been sitting on my shelves from such a long time. This again is translated from the Italian by Todd Portnowitz, along with Jhumpa Lahiri herself. Like, if you've been following this author, you know that she taught herself Italian, and she just loves writing in Italian, even though she's technically, I think, Indian, but has grown up in the United States. So I've read a couple of her other books as well. I think my favorite of hers was in other words. A book that I think also was about her love for the Italian language and adopting it as her own language as a foreigner. This book is actually a collection of short stories, and I think it was as well written as the other book. No, I didn't. Did it have a few memorable sentences? Maybe. But still, it's probably my least favorite Jhumpa Lahiri work, actually, because I didn't really find that there was a lot to take away from this. I went in expecting that all the stories are going to have something that's essentially Roman, right, in them, because it's called Roman stories. So that's the mindset I went with. But turns out this is just about people who are other, people who are foreign, who are living in Italy, and the kind of lives that they have as people from the East or Asian, right? So the kind of discrimination that they go through, I think that's what really tied all the stories together, because there was a moment of racism or microaggression done because of somebody's race in each of the stories, and they kind of tied the collection together. But I was expecting more of like a love story for Rome among all the stories that came in this collection, but I was disappointed that that wasn't the case. So yeah, it's still a thought-provoking read to some extent, but probably not my favorite novel of hers. Yeah. I read Intemperance, a novel by Sonara Jha, which is a new release, one of her latest novels. Something that I didn't expect to enjoy so much, but I did enjoy. And this is about a woman who is in her middle age. It falls in line with the other book, All Fours, that I've reviewed in another video by Miranda July. And I thought they had a lot of similarities between them, but also they're very different books. So this is about a woman who's in her 50s, right? 55 years old. She's already had like 2 failed marriages, but then she decides she wants to host a Swayamvar, right? And a Swayamvar is an Indian traditional ceremony wherein a princess gets to pick her husband from among a series of suitors. And this is popularly done, I think, in Mahabharata, which is one of the epics, the great Indian epics. So in the Mahabharata, I think Arjun is chosen by Draupadi, if I'm not wrong, among the Pandavas, and he does this archery contest and he impresses her, and then his skills are really what sells him. So she wants to do the same thing, but she lives in, I think, Seattle, if I'm not wrong, in the United States, and she wants to kind of host one there. So I thought it was really cool, very empowering. Somebody really taking charge, trying something out of the blue to kind of really find the one, that soulmate, even though they're in, past their prime, but they still consider themselves worthy. And I thought that said a lot about the character. She's the kind of character that you'd have respect for, even though she's very bold and has these quirky ideas and executes them. She's very lovable. So I loved the different friendships that she has in this book and how they're explored. She's also a university professor, so she's somebody who's specialized in sociology, and I thought that added a very interesting layer to the story. There's also a bit of political and social commentary about India, which fits into this novel quite well, but might not be the main focus of the novel. I was really curious from start to finish how this woman, this main character, is going to pull off this stunt of having a Swayamvar, because it's not easy in this day and age. And will she succeed at finding the one person? And also, what is the task that she's going to assign? How is she going to find suitors, right, to come and take part in the task? And so it was really interesting. I really enjoyed this novel, something very unique and something out of the blue that really caught me off guard, and I'll remember it for a long time after. So that was Intemperance by Sonara Jha. So those were the 7 books that I read in the month of January. What did you read in Jan? Let me know in a comment down below. I'm super interested to hear if you had any favorites for the month of Jan. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be back with more content. In the meantime, stay safe, stay sane, and happy reading. Bye.